Well, that was arguably one of the most disappointing E3s in quite some time. Now, obviously the coughing elephant in the room is COVID-19, how every company scrambled to put together trailers, demos, etc. for a showcase of millions alongside dealing with a pandemic that ravaged the globe. That said, E3 has been ailing for years now, and even if we go back to before 2020's cancelled showcase, 2019 had a notably flat reception. With an abundance of CG trailers masking the reality of what was playable, zero surprise announcements, and nothing from top-tier studios like Activision, Warner Bros. Or Capcom, even back then we were questioning the purpose of this once sought-after event. Like with 2021's E3, it was both Xbox and Nintendo rolling together a slew of games with minimal talking in between that went down best, further highlighting the reality that all the pomp, circumstance, and awkward bluster might just be a thing of the past. I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and these are the 7 biggest reasons E3 is dying. Number 7. Sony are checked out. Zero PlayStation representation. There's no getting around it, Sony do not care about E3 anymore, don't see its value to them as a company or to the subset of fans who watch. They're simply happy to not attend and barely talk about it year in, year out. Granted, this only started in 2019, but their comments point to a company that would prefer to show off everything they're working on everywhere other than E3. I'll get to why very soon, but as they noted in January 2020, the ESA's vision for E3 doesn't align with how they want to present PlayStation to the world. For 2021, everything was pretty messy, but the general vibe was those attending pulling together, creating a return show where Sony's direct competition, Xbox and Nintendo, had prime slots to show off new projects and what was coming soon. Their response? Well, Sony said even less, but their actions speak louder than PR statements ever could. They just don't need E3. And why? Because Sony are more content to roll out game demos and trailers at their own pace, either at a State of Play livestream or at their increasingly popular PlayStation Experience and PlayStation Showcase. Number 6. The ESA are slowly losing their minds. Another of the major reasons Sony could have turned their back on E3 is the insane price of being part of the showcase itself. Video Game Chronicle revealed back in February that the ESA, E3's owners, the Entertainment Software Association, were asking for 6-figure sums to let studios be included. This came after leaked emails at the close of 2019 showed the ESA were planning an overhaul of E3 to make it a, and I quote, fan, media and influencer festival, featuring a focus on Q-tainment, using apps while you wait, and exclusive/appointment-only activations for select attendees who will create buzz and FOMO. The latter stands for fear of missing out, and the former centers on manufacturing as much hype as possible. Celebrity guests were mentioned as E3 would become more mainstream than ever, getting about as far away from a tech/video game focused showcase as humanly possible. This is the version of E3 that Sony were actively saying they don't agree with. And while 2020 put a spanner in the works and 2021's all-digital version meant this plan was further delayed, it's clear even the ESA don't really get why E3 matters to gaming overall. Number 5. The size of most video games don't allow for a mid-year demo. Onto the other side of the coin, and it's a harsh reality of top-tier video game development that the majority of titles don't come together or resemble anything playable until their closing months. God of War's Cory Barlog has talked at length about how 2018's soft reboot was a complete mess until very close to launch, with various key systems including combat, traversal, etc. being developed by different teams that could only coalesce further down the line. Across the 8th generation, we've seen this proven true to painful degree, as release dates and supposed finish lines actively cut the head off projects in development before they've been given life. Cyberpunk 2077, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, Fallout 76, etc. We've reached a point where actively siphoning resources away from core development just to make a vertical slice demo is rarely worth it, especially when the show you're creating the demo for is waning in popularity. Those resources are just better spent bringing everything together. Number 4. People only want the games. Where in decades gone by the awkward PR-laden speak of E3 was just part of the show, something that maybe made its way into a cringe compilation afterwards, now it's become the thing that's getting in the way of what you came to see. Gaming audiences are more focused and passionate than ever, and as the best streams of 2021's E3 proved, Nintendo and Xbox, the balance for these showcases is minimal humans, maximum video games. Nintendo's Direct was a lean 40 minutes, rattling through scores of announcements, DLC, and brand new games alike, whilst noting extended gameplay would be covered in their Treehouse stream afterwards. It's no surprise both of these approaches went down the best, while Xbox still took some time out for developers to describe how innovative their games were going to be, and Nintendo showed off specific moves for Tekken's Kazuya now added to Super Smash Bros., both were far more worth your time than the pacing of every third-party stream except Devolver Digital. While the Super Bowl of video game stature of E3 can be a blast, across the last few years any seasoned gamer knows what the show needs to deliver, and all the fluff alongside can just feel like filler. Number 3. Independent publisher livestreams make more sense. I've covered the reality of certain tiers of game development not lining up with when E3 is on, but there's evidence to show that separate livestreams can draw more attention anyway. Again, coming from Video Game Chronicle, they noted that Sony's viewership for their own PS5 reveal was double that of the PlayStation 4's first E3. That's 80 million views compared to 40 million. It was also more than their last E3 in 2018, with that coming in at just 55 million. While Nintendo still show up at E3, they laid down the livestream template with Nintendo Direct. Since then, everyone from Sony to Ubisoft, EA to Yacht Club have chosen their own time to reveal updates, dismissing the mid-year slot of E3 to choose months and times that suit them. Sure, it sucks that we don't have as much of a blowout in the summer, but this approach fits the process of creating video games far better. Number 2, it's more for investors than ever. In case you didn't know, E3 isn't for the fans and the consumers, it's for the investors. Now, that's not anything new. E3 has always existed as a way for companies to showcase to investors which titles are in development, why they're worth funding, why they're going to dominate the fourth quarter holiday season, and so on. While this has always been the case, the public were only allowed into the event from 2017 onwards, it does result in studios taking up 40 minutes to an hour-long shows with games we already knew were coming. Maybe some DLC gets announced or a deluxe edition is now on the horizon. It all feels like reporting into a project manager convincing them you're on track. The magic of E3, and yes, it's occasionally still there, goes hand in hand with new games to celebrate, iconic industry figureheads being given the spotlight, or confirmation that a long-awaited title is actually in development. This is, in reality, the reason E3 became its own event in 1995, segmenting off from the Consumer Electronics Show to celebrate all things gaming. Over the years, that spirit behind its inception usually comes through, but it's easily buried by an empty corporate feel, boring box-ticking presentations, and lists of games that serve the business side of things rather than anything creative. And number 1, Jeff Keeley. Make no mistake, Jeff Keeley, once a co-host of G4TV.com and freelance journalist turned media figurehead for the Game Awards and Summer Game Fest, is gunning for E3's crown. Injecting more trailers and showpieces into the Game Awards shifted the spotlight away from E3 being the place where new reveals happen, and during the negativity that came from this year's event, Keeley tweeted that he did try to tell us E3 wasn't going to be very satisfying. Both of these were calculated moves, and even before this tweet, Keeley shared that he'd been turned away from co-streaming E3 in an official capacity, stating that he has tried to play nice, but was now falling back on third-party studio deals to keep going. Across E3 weekend, both Jeff and the ESA had a small back and forth, with an ESA rep telling Kotaku that the decision wasn't personal, with Keeley then posting a meme of Mario stroking his chin. All of this is to say that Jeff obviously sees an opening in making a more fan-focused video game show, especially in light of the various mistakes E3 has made across the last few years. Although Jeff has certainly had his run-ins with over-sponsored set pieces like the infamous Doritos interview of 2012 or 2019's Game Awards focusing on adverts over the games themselves, he continues to make more good decisions than bad, in a bid to inherit the slot of the summer. While the pricing side of what it costs to be part of Jeff's SGF stream is being kept under wraps, it's highly unlikely those figures are anywhere near the 6-digit number behind E3. Right now, Jeff Keeley's approach to Summer Games Fest seems to be if you have something to show, then show it. If not, don't worry about being part of the showcase, or you can pay for a quick sponsored segment instead. It avoids the laborious, dragged-out third-party conferences that dog E3, and arguably fits better with the majority of studio schedules, hence him netting Elden Ring, Death Stranding Director's Cut, and Borderlands spin-off Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. At least that's what I think coming out of E3 2021. Let me know your own thoughts down in the comments below, and please subscribe to the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast. For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com, and I'll catch you soon.